Right, good morning, everybody. It's 10:30, and welcome to JM Finn's Spring Seminar.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me along today to speak to you. And I think with all these two amazing companies you've just heard about, Bremont Watch Company is very different. We're not a FTSE listed business, and we are in a space that everyone thinks should be Swiss made. But actually, there's this amazing history of British watchmaking. So Oliver's asked me to give you a bit of a background on Bremont. And then I'm open for questions. Obviously, we're not a listed business, so I can answer anything on my view on what the luxury industry is doing. So happy to answer any of those. But a bit of background from Bremont. So we started really through a passion, a family passion. So my father was an amazing man. He was a PhD aeronautical engineer from Cambridge who had the brain the size of a building. But what he loved doing, he was sponsored by the RAF through university. He was an RAF pilot. He had this amazing workshop at home that we grew up in. So it was always about fixing things. He built a sailing boat we lived on as children. He played in a bluegrass band, so built his own guitars and banjos. But one of his big passions was watches and clocks. So he grew up fixing these watches and clocks in the workshop. We went on I went on to go and study engineering at university, and my brother went off to Manchester, and we're both sponsored by the RAF there. So really sort of flying was our career. I love the engineering side of it as well. But our life changed massively in 1995. Training for an air display, my father and brother flew out of an airfield called North Weald near Harlow. And it all went horribly wrong. They were practicing in a World War II aircraft, and they crashed. And my dad died instantly. My brother broke over 30 bones, should never have survived, but did. And that for us was this big tipping point. Our life changed, and we decided to sort of follow our passions, and this watches and clocks, this passion we had with our father growing up, fixing these old clocks in his workshop with him, was something you hit this tipping point in life. And that tipping point for us was, look, let's go and do something we love. And we were so aware of this amazing history in British watchmaking. Everyone thinks Swiss made, but actually, if you go back 100 years, we're making half the world's watches and clocks in the UK. You know, the world sets its time by Greenwich Mean Time. Rolex was founded in Clerkenwell. 60% of a modern mechanical watch were invented by British watchmakers, and that all goes back to 1760, when John Harris invented the marine chronometer, the clock that enabled sailors to measure longitude. And we were the nation of clockmakers. If you go to a Chinese embassy and look at gifts given by governments all around the world for the last 200 years, it was, predominantly it's British clocks there. What changed that? Well, the Swiss industry died. The Swiss industry were the cheap labor market of Europe, and we had the First World War, well, Boer War, First World War, Second World War, and we're machining components to about 5 microns. A human hair is about 60 microns. So if you can machine a watch, you can machine anything. So First World War, all the watchmakers were all poached to go and build guns, planes, support the war effort. Same with the German watch industry. Swiss, as a neutral country, they carried on making watches, selling them to everyone else. They weren't obviously making arms. The last British watch company died in the late 60s, early 70s, and that was Smith's Watches. So long story saying, Nick and I were very aware of this amazing history. We at the time, there's 750 Swiss watch companies, no British watch company. So we went over to Switzerland. This is 2002. We thought it'd take a couple of years to get in a position to make some watches out there and then slowly bring the production back. 5 years later, we hadn't sold a single watch. It is so damn complicated. Obviously, our wives weren't very pleased with sort of second mortgage the homes to do this, but this sort of passion stuck with us. And that whole time investing in it made sure we got the product right. So we finally launched in 2007. And we are only making mechanical watches. There's no battery here. It's all cogs and gears. And then finally, it launched in 2007. And then our whole mission statement was to do our bit to revive the British watch industry, to really celebrate a horological past and to bring it back to the UK. And that didn't happen until 2010. And I'm sitting, you can't really see much in here. If we had a slide, I'd show you some photos, but we're moved into our new facility, 35,000 square feet on the edge of Henley-on-Thames, where you can come now, you can see machines the size of this room, machining tiny little components, full watchmaking training facility. So if I was in Switzerland, if I wanted to produce get a watchmaker, I put an ad in a paper. If I'm doing it in the UK, I have to train that individual up for 2 years beforehand before I would here's any use to me. It's an amazingly complex industry, and ultimately we're an engineering company, but making the most accurate mechanical components that you can do in metal. But what we have in this building, we have full CNC capability. So we've invested, and these machines are considerable investment, to watchmakers where you can come, you can see all those watches being assembled down to that finite level with a full commitment to training. So working with British School of Watchmaking, but setting up our own apprenticeship scheme. And I mentioned it's not an easy business, watchmaking, because you're an engineering company, but if you are manufacturing a watch using this, a full technical design teams, engineers, watchmakers, you're training, but you also have to be a very good marketeer as a watch company. You have to build a brand. People aren't going to buy your watches if they haven't heard about you. You also have to do it on a global level. That businessman wants to see you in New York or Hong Kong or the UK. And really, the future of luxury, we're not an online business. Yes, COVID has made us far more of an online business. People have been buying stuff online that they never would before. But ultimately, we are a retailer as well. We own our own stores around the world. We've had to build up our own store portfolio. And we see that growing even more. And I think there's some takeaways I want to give you today. Really, the luxury business has been hit massively in the last 12 months. There's no denying that. But if you've got exposure to China in the watch industry is 50% of the global watch business now. China is the beast of consuming luxury brands. So if you're a luxury brand and you've got a strong input into China, then you can you've covered yourself. But we are selling experiences. Yes, online was probably 5% of our business a year ago, and moving forward, it will be probably 20%. So we fast forwarded retail, at least I think about 5 years, in literally a matter of months. I think if you're a retailer doing probably 40% plus business online before COVID, then actually you haven't fared too badly. I know a lot of retailers who were doing that sort of percentage. They've shut all their stores, but actually they've held their turnover up because people have been sitting at home buying. But that hasn't been the luxury watch space. Jewelry has fared better than watches because jewelry is one of its main competitors is tourism and travel experiences. So people haven't been doing that, so they've still been buying that. But if you're a manufacturer, you've had extra issues. My staff, I haven't been able to switch them off. This skill set's taken us, 20 years to get to the point where we can, you don't want to lose that overnight. So you've had to keep that going. Now I'll move into our new facility. That slowdown has really helped in the sense that production's reduced, but we were able to move into this, our new facility known as the Bremont Manufacturing Technology Center, the wing based on the edge of Henley. So now you as a consumer can come and have a look around. You can see the watchmakers, you can see the machining, and that's also enabled us to make our next giant leap. And our next giant leap is full movement manufacturing here in Henley. And there has been no single brand, a watch brand, that has done what we've done the last 20 years. And the reason being, it's a massive investment to make it work. I always say in a mechanical watch, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. A mechanical watch you buy, we're all chronometer rated. That means it will be, when it leaves our workshop, 3 or 4 seconds accurate. So you're machining something so damn complicated, the barriers to entry are massive. And the industry is probably 80% owned by Richemont, LVMH, Swatch, Kering, and then a few of the big independents, so a Rolex or a Patek type big independents. So it's dominated by a few big groups. Britain has not gone down the luxury grouping. Obviously, you have the Burberrys, the big luxury brands, but they haven't been buying up. There's no single group entity, which I wish there was. But this is one area of manufacturing, luxury, that we can compete with around the world. I'm not competing to make a widget 2p cheaper than the Chinese. What I'm doing is making something that can justifiably be manufactured in the UK. And I do think that high-tech space is where the Britain should be investing. We get very little government support, and that is challenging. There is no doubt about that. So where do I see in retail over the next couple of years going? I'm quite excited for it. One, there's a pent-up spending. We know consumer debt has got to the lowest level in many, many years. And people want to get out. But more importantly for retail, we're getting deals on stores that I would never have had a year, 2 years ago. So a little example, my store in Madison on New York was costing $750,000 a year to have that store. Now that store is worth $250,000. We're getting turnover rent deals. So I think around the world, so we will be launching 5 stores in the next 12 months, which is strange, but retail works if you're not paying too much and you're not saddled with this heritage sort of legacy of overpaying for expensive stores. But I do think there has to be a discount put on pension funds for holding that stock. There has to be a devaluation at some point, because I still don't feel that's properly come through. But the other thing is that online acquisition is not going down. It's not going. Your return investment is reducing. So the cost of acquiring a customer online is not cheap. So I think there still is a real time for physical stores, but also the experience of physical stores offer. Now, I won't go through all the rest of my slides because we've sort of jumped around a bit, and I'm conscious I'm sort of getting up to my time. But probably, Oliver, shall I open up to some questions?
Yeah, that would be great. I've got one question here, Giles, already that says, love the product. Great to see you're partnering with Williams Racing. Are there any other major kickers to get the brand known on the horizon?
Well, thank you for that. And Williams has been an exciting one because it's a sort of technical partnership. They're using exactly the same machines as us, DMG Morris. So we're doing a skill share between us. But you're right. Our nearest competitor is probably turning over 800 million to $1 billion that we sit alongside in stores around the world. So their marketing budgets are a lot bigger than us. But we have to grow, we have to become more mainstream to continue to invest in the infrastructure that we have in the UK. But it's a long-term journey. So how can you do things cleverly? And we are pretty much the only British watch firm that actually manufacture here in the UK. And we're using that as a bit of a differentiator. So whether it's our partnership with Jaguar Cars or Rolls-Royce Aerospace, we're doing some really interesting things with. Partnerships is a very important thing for growing brand awareness and technical skill set. But we are going around the world waving this British flag, which is challenging in places like China, where is it Swiss made is the question. How do we get over that? Well, we have to tell this wonderful history. We have to show what we're doing. But fundamentally, is our watch for the price point as good or better than anyone else out there? And we believe it is, and that's only getting better. So yeah, I definitely, the invite is for anyone out there. Please come have a tour around Henley. We're opening as of next week. You can book it online. We'd love to show you around.
Brilliant, thank you. We've had one lady ask, are you planning to make any more ladies' watches, or is there no luxury market?
No, ladies' watches is a big market. The challenge we've always had is investment in R&D, in manufacturing ladies' watches. The movements are generally smaller. It's a different business to an extent. And also the marketing angle. There's no point launching this lovely ladies' collection without marketing it. But the last 12 months, we've been doing a lot more. We did this beautiful limited edition watch with Stephen Hawking's family called the Hawking, and we did a ladies limited edition there, which sold out immediately, and we've got some lovely new ones on the way. So the answer is yes, and we're putting a lot more money into that.
Yeah, and someone's written here that I've heard it said that anyone under 50 uses their phone to tell the time. Will watches have a future?
Terrible. What I love is, okay, that phone, however much, £1,000, whatever it costs, that will be chucked away in a year's time. That watch will work in 200 years' time. Yes, you have to service it. If it breaks, you can fix it. And it has moved on from just telling the time. It's a watch is like a piece of jewelry. It's a statement piece. It's an asset. It's something you can really enjoy. But yes, if you want the most accurate time, you use your phone. And interesting though, we about 25% of our business is just making for military around the world, and we're the official watch provider for the Ministry of Defence. And they're not allowed. Smartwatches aren't allowed in many military briefings now. And these pilots or military or special forces, they're getting our watches because they want to hand it on to their son, their grandson. To this proved that I was flying F-15s for 7 years of my life. It means a lot more, and I think they become very personal objects. And anyone who hasn't worn a watch for a while, go and buy a watch and wear it, and suddenly it transforms, rather than getting that phone out of your pocket every 5 minutes. 2 minutes.
Charles, this will be the last question in the interest of time, but a question I know the answer to because I love your story. But someone's asked, why Bremont?
So my surname's English, and you never get the trademark English. And we didn't want to go and buy an old brand. I could have gone and bought the brand Harrison, Mudge, Tompion, one of the great British watch companies. But we felt, how can I go and work with a Martin Baker on ejection seats or Jaguar Cars? I'd have to constantly pretend we've been trading for 200 years. And if we look at those 750 Swiss watch companies, literally only a handful of those have continued trading. The quartz revolution in the 70s killed many of them off. They're resurrected, and they will say trading since 1722, but they really haven't been. And we could have gone and done that and bought Harrison brand and said we've been trading since then. But that wasn't us. We wanted to, it's about a brand looking forward. And 3 years after Dad died, Nick and I were in an old biplane going through France, and we got caught in some terrible weather. And we'd started building our watches at this time. The first watches had no brand on, and we forced landed in a French farmer's pea field. And my father died when he was 49, and we met this lovely farmer. He said, look, put your plane in my shed. Because in England or America, if you land in a farmer's field, you wait till the weather's better, give the farmer a bottle of whiskey, and take off and fly. In France, they impound your aircraft, so it's a disaster. So this lovely farmer helped us out, and we stayed with him a couple of days. And he reminds us about, he would have been our father had our father lived till his late 70s. He was playing with these old tractors and grandfather clocks and old motorbikes, and real character. And we set off a couple of days later, and with flying home, and his name was Antoine Bremont. We thought, Bremont, that's a cool sounding name. That would work on a watch. And we called him up and said, look, we're not associating this with you in any way, but do you mind if we're going to use the name Bremont? I went, crazy Englishman. And that's where the name came from. Yeah.
Good. Well, Giles, listen, thank you very much indeed for your time. Apologies for the technical issues we had at the beginning, but we're really grateful. It's a great story, and I would encourage anyone to go and look at the website to understand the true Britishness of the band Bremont, which was born in France.
No, my pleasure, and thank you very much. And yes, I think you'll see it bounce back in the luxury industry in the next year or two. And really appreciate for getting me along and everyone for listening. So thank you.
Thanks, Giles.